Another day, another strike. This time, despite last-minute negotiations, over 10,000 ambulance workers across 9 trusts will walk out. A controversial decision, but the unions say workers have been left with no other choice.
They don't want to put patients at risk, but they feel that they're putting them at risk every single day due to the handover delays and waiting times and issues that are completely out of their control. And they're frustrated because they're having to use food banks themselves. They're watching their colleagues suffer. Their mental health is suffering. They're suffering with stress and burnout. So they're feeling at their lowest low, and that's why they've said that now the government must pay attention because they've ignored us for years.
By law, ambulance workers on strike must still provide life-preserving care when it's needed. But anything less, and they're within their rights not to respond.
Our local teams have worked around the clock for the last few weeks, meeting with ambulance employers to determine what emergency cover will look like at a local level. We will have our members on picket lines outside ambulance stations so that they are ready to respond to emergency calls, and the employers will be there working with our reps to make sure that where life and limb cover is needed, our members are able to respond to that.
Now, as a last resort, the military has been drafted in to support NHS staff during the strikes.
Particularly patients who've had like a stroke or something and don't have the power.
This is part of what we do. The Army is part of the society we live in, and the Army does help where it's needed. This isn't a new task, we've done this before. Certainly with COVID 2 years ago we did Operation Rescript, and it was a very similar idea. So for the soldiers this isn't any new surprise, it's actually something they're quite used to. They are being trained how to support the NHS when it comes to moving a patient and getting them safely in and out of the ambulance, so they will then support the paramedic on the scene.
Alongside the military, the government may also ask for support from taxi drivers and police officers.
It's important that any responsible government looks at all the contingency plans that we can to mitigate any risk to patient safety. But we've got to recognise that it's the trade unions that need to ensure that there is sufficient cover to meet their obligations in terms of life-threatening responses, so those emergency calls that are absolutely key, that we have sufficient cover in the arrangements that are put in place with each individual ambulance trust.
With another day of ambulance strikes already scheduled for next Wednesday, and patient safety teetering in the balance. For many, an end to this stalemate could be the difference between life and death. Sophie Reaper, GB News.